que no le diese tanto y que le dejase. Pero estaba ya el mozo picado y no quiso dejar el juego hasta envidar todo el resto de su cólera. Y acudiendo por los demás trozos de la lanza, los acabó de deshacer sobre el miserable caído, que con toda aquella tempestad de palos que sobre él llovía, no cerraba la boca, amenazando al cielo y a la tierra y a los malandrines.
Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Eric, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Revolution will be podcasted.
All right, welcome to Tinfoil Hat live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver Studios. Just go to samtripoli.gold, use the promo code TINFOIL, and you too can get in on the Press Mails game for as little as $50 a month. Press Mails sent right to your house. Very excited to have this guy on. He's a jack of all trades. He's a researcher. He's a broadcaster. He's an author. He's a rock star in a rock show that we're excited to hear about. Please welcome the one and only Mark Windows. How are you, sir?
Thanks, I'm fine. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a jack of all trades. I focus generally on geopolitical research, but I have a background in entertainment, which kind of runs along quite nicely with it all, because you need a bit of light relief now and again.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, about like just the landscape of, content creating and why some people might have a good show, but not getting the reach that they want. And you gotta kind of have a spoonful of sugar while you talk about this stuff, because it could get pretty heavy at some point. Mark, for those who may not be familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where our listeners can find you?
WindowsOnTheWorld.net is the website, and the background to what I do was really in looking at systems of governance, and specifically I got into it through looking at the way local governance had changed and what was going on within the court system in the UK. It changed around 2010 into a communitarian system, same as in the US when Obama announced the Obama Army, and basically that citizens were going to be taking over the narrative, but those citizens are not the community, and that's called communitarianism. So I got into that. I have a great interest in history. I've been researching for a very long time. I don't actually agree that you need a spoonful of sugar with anything, because I don't take sugar. And also, the information that I put out is pure, it's reliable, and any speculation I put out is generally just put out there. And I say, well, what do you think about this? Therefore, you don't have a big reach, because I don't put out clickbait. But I do have a very loyal audience who are pretty intelligent, because they interact with me through the shows and through the website. And to me, that's the most important thing. And also the amount of change that can be affected by what you put out. So I'm not the sort of podcaster who wants a big audience, and I was denied a big audience. I used to work at a TV station called the People's Voice TV, which was started by David Icke.
Yes.
And that was around 2014. I had a daily show, and I was putting out information which was very powerful with a group of people in the UK. And those people brought down several government agencies. Therefore, I was put on a list, I think, slightly targeted, and which meant the shows and the website was very marginalized for a long time. So it's kind of hidden in the algorithm. And that is, I think, a very important point, that if you want good information, you've got to go and find it and search a little.
I love everything you said. I mean, I've felt that as well.
How are you
watch
feeling?
on YouTube a bunch of new conspiracy content come on. It seems to thrive, and there's something about if you're that old school, conspiratorial content that they seem to still have something for you and they don't want to let you kind of try. So I agree with you on that. I've lost YouTube channels. I had to pay back to get my Instagram. So I completely understand everything you're saying.
Yes.
You brought up something very interesting, and we'll get into your talking points, but we've said this on the show before, that through the internet kind of took our eyes off of local and put our focus here in the States on Washington, D.C. and everything that was going on in Washington, D.C. And then they kind of made their move.
How are you feeling?
I'd like to call them the Bolsheviks. You can call them whatever what I'd love to hear what you think they are.
We could call them the World Revolutionary Movement. It's all part of the same thing that you're talking about.
I totally agree with that. And so they kind of like they kind of pulled our eyes to Washington, D.C., what was happening in Washington, D.C., why we didn't pay attention to our city council, our board of education.
That's some proof of progress, right?
And I'm glad you brought that up because I totally agree with you on that talking point. You know, and it's just, I know the United States is going through a lot as well. We got a crazy election in.
Same template operates all around the world to a greater or lesser degree, and this is the thing that I think is probably the only frustrating point about it all, is that people want clickbait, they want distraction. Therefore, especially after the COVID era, a lot of new podcasts were promoted which are putting up this general conspiracy garbage which leads you nowhere but keeps you up all night. And with a little bit of application, a lot can be done. And yes, everything that's happening globally happens in your town hall. So you get the people in Davos, forget all about what the conspiracy media are talking about, concentrate on your town hall, because everything global comes in local. So everything that affects you is in your local municipality, in Britain, your local council. And it's the same in America, exactly the same template. The communitarian template is the same in pretty much every country. It doesn't matter whether it's taking over a building, it doesn't matter whether it's taking over a town, it doesn't matter whether it's clearing the way for new development for land pirates and plunderers to come in. In fact, there's no difference in the template of the Gaza genocide and what's going on in different degrees of the same thing.
Well put. I totally agree with that. So let's get into this. You wanted to talk about the age of UN life?
No, come back!
Okay.
Yeah, I'm hurting. You know this wouldn't stop me, right?
Here won't be. Then they have this background. I better give a little bit of a background to this, because I've been talking about the UN global governance system for a very long time. And that system is the Sustainable Development Goals, known as Agenda 2030. And all of the principles of Agenda 2030 are kind of reversed in a way, because they real stated goals. In other words, they give you this fluffy cover story, we're going to save the planet, and you're going to pay for it. But really, the idea behind it all was that the bankers got together after the Rio conference in '92. There was an international criminal called Maurice Strong, who was the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations, and he organised the UNEP program. He was also the head of the World Economic Forum around 1972. So this goes back to that, right? And they decided that the new system of government would be through the environment. In other words, you pay benefits for breathing. So it's a new form of benefits called sustainable development, which means that in effect, the idea and the cover story of sustainable development is that you don't leave an impact which will impact
to learn.
That's the cover story. The real story is that international financiers and bankers got together and decided that they would go to another system, because a lot of people were calling capitalism. So they went to another system, and it came out of the City of London. By 2008, N.M. Rothschild had put into place a paper called Carbon Trading Global It's actually available at windowontheworld.net on this page. But it says at the beginning of that document that no one is allowed to quote, which is crazy. obviously it's a public document, but it was only circulated to people within the industry. Now, of course, there's a lot more to it than this. We go back to the environmental movement, how it was hijacked, and people like Earth First, who were saying in the 70s, and Dave Foreman said, the ideal population would be under 100 million. And they decided that depopulation was necessary on a Malthusian kind of concept, even though now world population is drastically reduced because of these implementations. So basically, what they set in
Going back
place
for a wee kip.
30 years ago is falling apart because it's based on absolute lies. In other words, the sea levels are not rising. There is climate catastrophe, and we're living in a very stable period. And I was involved with a lot of scientists who were challenging the global warming theory. And it's a theory with no foundation evidence. And therefore, what's happening now is it's falling apart. I actually proved that it's falling apart a very long time ago. And people like Neil Baxel-Morn, the world's leading expert on sea levels, he actually came from the UNIPCC, and he was in a small town in North Wales that was going to be decommissioned, in other words, land grab. So we found out the voice of London was still in big concrete, and also that climate change thing was a scam. What happened was that we did a talk down there to the locals, and the local Labour Party and the fake green Nazis, or Nazis, too good a word for them. People get lazy with that word, but the fake actually said that I worked on a show on the station with David Icke, and that I thought the Queen was a lizard, and that my conspiracy theories were about as credible as Elvis being on the dark side of the moon, which is one that you asked a few years ago. What happened was recently, the reason I'm bringing this up is nearly 10 years later, local papers are saying, yes, it is a scam. And that local paper, they put down, when I was going to do my talk, I spoke to them on the phone about all this, and instead of putting world-leading sea level expert offers to support Fairborn in court over decommissioning, they wrote protest for climate change deniers talk. So there was no protest plan. Protest. Now, referring to this kind of hominem attack, and then they do this, and the public will be known. But I think that the environmental thing is the key to the new world order.
You bring up a wonderful point. I agree with you wholeheartedly, 100%. I want to know, what is your thoughts about Bill Gates coming out and basically saying that humanity's not going to be killed off by climate change? Is that a small victory for us? That it's not going to be a thing? Because that was
I think more people have been killed by his program is lying. So it's true. Yeah, he's not lying.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, we get into this. You know, again, if we kind of look at what's going on here, they don't even have to be 20
losing balance.
And be fighting fake monsters. Because, you know, this is kind of balanced that will your children know struggle? Will they?
Well, it was aimed at the middle class. That's the point. Development is not aimed at poor people. It's aimed at the middle classes.
Thank you for the soul.
6 or 7 things you're recycling, then it makes you feel good. It's like going to church and doing your confession for the week. That's basically what it is.
Head it back to me, bother.
Of course, it goes in the same hole in the landfill, or it's exported. But the point is that people need to feel good about their own micromanagement. So if you're going to micromanage the population, they have to feel as though they're doing something useful. And the middle classes are the biggest dupes for that. And I saw that in the borough that I lived in. And what they did, they brought in people who were going to recruit those people and who were going to take down the opposition with civil institutions. And this happened in America too. The same template. It's a template that's very simple, but people don't want to know about. But it's a template that will empower you and live your life and get on to much more. And that was fine. So if you stop how you're governed, then you can move on to the next stage. There's no point in moving to that next stage.
And what I find interesting is nobody ever wants to actually look at it. Like everything is their goals. And it's like my girlfriend, who I love with all my heart, watches MSNBC. COVID, doesn't matter if they lied about Russiagate, doesn't matter if they lied about Obama, doesn't matter if they lied about weapons of mass destruction. I mean, you know, we just had Megan Kelly go off.
Sausage ready.
FBI 100%. I just want to go. What is the story or the case that the FBI was correct about? Well, tell it. I'd love to hear about it, because I can come up with lists where they were completely fraudulent and lied about the entire thing. What is the case when you go, this is where they were right? And this is
how the media works. Two lies, left and right,
This will be good.
They do this, or what is done by terrorism. These are false arguments. You want your side to win. If you're indoctrinated or indoctrinating yourself on one side, then you want that side to win. The argument actually doesn't become a proper debate. It just becomes two people shouting out politics or political fallacies. So that's not an argument. So this is a very important point about self-governance. Therefore, when you talk about the four...
Best be cautious.
This is the point, because it's the dialectic going on, which means that there's two lies. Away from any kind of power, then you give them two lies to argue over. The theory of governance is that the two lies are people
Glad to help.
Non-linear warfare, where they would give both sides all the data to make them think that they're right, so they can never come together and have a discussion, right or the left. And it's something, before I was trying to get into that, before we came on, that, each one of these social media that we have, and I'm going Twitter, Instagram, and I'm not on TikTok, I don't really use that, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I know Facebook owns both Instagram and Facebook, but has their own what you're willing to say on one and say on the other. So I made the mistake of linking my Instagram
heading back
to Facebook.
They try to do that every time you post. They'll pop up, but hey, are you sure you don't want to be posting this?
And it was the biggest
await
mistake
my
ever.
return.
Really
My shield's awaiting.
I try not to get flip on Instagram, but
Hey, bother.
and then I forgot that it was Facebook, and I was getting friends. Friends are going nuts on me on Facebook, and I bring it up because their argument is that what they don't understand is, like, they think because I don't agree with them, I'm on the other side, and they don't understand that I'm on nobody's side. I'm on both sides of this argument, and because they don't see me go off on, let's say, Trump or anything on Facebook, because I try to keep a lot of the politics off of Facebook, and Instagram. They don't see me talking shit about the Zionism and all, and the Palestinian all the time on Twitter, and very little on Instagram. But I come to grips with that. I think both sides of the front, like within the This has been a tag team. Biden gets in with a really shady election, brings in all the illegals, and then acts like he's a hero to the right by trying to. They're both trying to bring in martial law.
Be right back. Good, bad cop. You know,
Yeah, it's
the same thing.
bad cop.
Yeah.
Good cop,
Yeah.
really bad cop.
Unless you know
To
who owns the
learn.
government, nothing's going to change. And people don't want to admit to who owns the
Going
government.
back for a wee kip.
And Trump's obviously beholden to them. And therefore nothing can change within global government. But there are interesting things within it. But big talking points of what's going on in the media, they're of certainly no interest to me, but people speak all day long on issues of absolutely no importance when they could be applying themselves to things that really matter. That's my opinion on them.
You know what's very interesting is, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name of the
Deutsche Bank, yeah.
That data will never enter anybody's head if you're just taking the news, whether it's Fox News or MSNBC, CNN. You'll never hear that.
People don't go back that far, though, do they, Johnny? I mean,
I'm
they
Sam,
tend
by the way,
to
just
have...
so you know, I'm Sam. Johnny is the guy on the board, so I'm...
Oh, I don't know. Johnny... Johnny Woodall.
Sorry about that, dude. Our apologies, dude. We should have introduced ourselves before, so...
It's all right. It'd be easy to just call you the two Johnnies.
Yeah.
I've been Johnny for my life.
This'll be good.
Johnny's Quattro, that's great. Go on, Mark. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, I just think that to make these points about anyone can but it's a very important thing. I think that all of this stuff,
Losing balance.
governance works in a much higher dimension than the public see, and they think it's a conspiracy theory. The way governance works is incredibly simple because we're looking at global plunder, and it's happening
I'll not dally.
all over the world, and it's land grabbing by land pirates on the back of a lie.
An allied
And
tower
it's happening in every
Yeah.
country.
An allied
The main thing is what does one do about it? One has to find a way around it. And to me, that's the key. Because that
Sasha's
makes it
ready.
interesting, quite exciting, and it takes away this feeling of disempowerment
Hey,
that people have,
bother.
which leads them into anger.
All right, guys, real quick, I want to thank our good friends at Home Chef. Listen, kids are back in school, and between drop-offs,
Ah,
pickups,
that's some proof of
homework,
progress
and don't
right
even
there.
get me started on battle, which is a real battle, okay? The last thing you want to think about is what's for dinner.
enemy tower is
Home
under
Chef
attack.
takes the stress off your plate with fresh, pre-portioned meals for the entire family, which makes weeknights and more enjoyable.
Home Chef makes simple, fresh other meals with quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe. Whatever kind of day it is, classic recipes with fresh ingredients, microwave options. Home Chef has you covered. There's even a dedicated family meal. This is for you. And it's not one there's 30 meals.
Initiating hypercar.
Home Chef's 5-ingredient meals are perfect. 5 fresh,
$50% off and free shipping for your first box. Plus,
Awaits
free dessert
my
for
return.
life. Go to homechef.com/tinfoil. That's homechef.com/tinfoil for 50% off your first box, and free dessert for life. Homechef.com/tinfoil. Must be an active subscriber to receive this free dessert. All right, I want to tell you about our friend.
Stronger now.
Listen, anxiety, stress, can't sleep, all that stuff. Cornbread has you covered. Let me tell you about cornbread now. Have you been looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomfort? The CBD gummies from Cornbread are formulated to work with your body. Feel better, whether it's stress, discomfort, or just being a little relaxation. Of the hemp plant, the flower, formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness. All third-party, lab tested, and USDA organic to ensure safety and purity. Okay, so here's what we need you to do. Right now, Tinfoil Hat listeners, aka the Swarm, okay, you can save 30% on their first order. cornbreadhemp.com/
Tinfoil.
That's cornbreadhemp/
That shield's awakened.
cornbreadhemp.com/
Tinfoil.
and use the code
Tinfoil.
and we thank them for sponsoring the awesome show isn't to like try to wake anybody up or tell, the key to me is to hear the show so you know the playbook and the psyops that they're running so you don't allow that to fall in.
Going back for a weekend.
That's really what I'm talking a lot about this. It's like
Hey, bother.
the system can't be changed. The only way
operate within the system. Because it's all about governance. So governance starts with everything.
Yeah.
So all governance starts with you. And you are ultimately responsible.
Yeah.
Once you take full responsibility, then you get out of this idea that there's trying to be imposed. Somehow you are given these rights. And of course there's no such thing as community rights. All rights come from the rights of an individual within a community. People who don't take absolute responsibility for their own actions will be led. And as the Roman maxim states, ignorance of the law is no excuse. So unless you educate yourself with principles of governance on the planet, then you cannot hope to actually achieve any sense of satisfaction or kind of progress. That's my view, you see, that it comes from the individual, and the way was to actually openly challenge what was going on. And that led to a series of events which were quite scary at times because
I'll not dally.
a lot of people who are in this system who have got everything covered, of course, sailing and
Hey,
all sorts of
bother.
things. But once you look how it actually works and you find out, that is very, very liberating because you find out where the Achilles heel of governance actually is, especially when it's standing on your own neck. And I've done some things that the world will never find out about because nobody will report them. Nobody in the mainstream media and nobody in the alternative. To me, is a very good indication of how people are governing themselves. So I do take this stuff seriously, but I do like to have things covered as well. And I think everything has to be balanced. We have to have a balanced view of integration. system can be got around. And that's what happened during the COVID thing. I got around the whole system. I travelled all over the place. And I'd done a lot of stuff in Britain that was kind of astounding.
Await
I didn't
my
think it was
return.
possible that one person could do it. And
Need to get some
there's no ego involved in it. I was just genuinely astonished about the things that I was thrown into. And I just realised that the way that things work is a template, and that template has not got more complicated. It's got incredibly simple, and that's one of the key things I think I like to try and
Come on then.
I agree with you, and it's this thing that I've talked about on other shows, but about you can't change a system. You have to learn how to beat the system. By beating the system, you show other
My
people.
shields are waiting.
Yeah, and then the system adapts to the new reality of everybody beating it. It's like even in like I'm a comic, and you can just watch like the old way was to get on the Tonight Show, get in the sitcom, get in the couldn't fit in that, you were done. Well, then everybody said, oh, I'm gonna get
To
a
learn.
Once that,
Oh, you remember MySpace? I love that.
I love
that. I used to speak to people on there. Like,
Awaken, Sorta. Oh hell.
it adapts, you know, it's like the way to make it 20 years ago. You can't make it.
Make a hole.
So the system eventually adapts to you. So if you want change, you can't go out there and march and all that stuff. Maybe that, but it's really about just like, hey dude, figure out the system, figure out what you don't like about it, beat the system, and enough people will watch you. Like, you know, I've been, you know, I'm in recovery. I get people hitting up all the time. There you go. That's how you beat the
Deploy
system.
crowd
You don't
control.
get lost in drugs and alcohol and vibration.
Deploy bomb.
So change. That's how you beat the system.
I'm interested actually to talk about that, you know. The addiction thing is a very, very important issue. How did you get around that?
For me, it was, you know, I had a problem with methamphetamines, and I had kids, and one day I went out and I was begging.
Hey, bother.
I did I realized that my kids, they were 6 months old at the time, and I'm like, they didn't have to have a junkie.
Saucer's ready.
I'm like, this is the rock bottom I had begged for. You know, like I couldn't get, I was a fucking drug addict.
Let's not waste that.
I didn't try to build it. I just a friend of mine named Jimmy Cohen.
You can't keep
Sammy,
me
you're
down.
trying to do as much at once. He goes, this is what I want you to do. When you feel like using, just ask God for 24 hours. And I remember I would see people I did drugs with, and I would get this real like
What's rightfully mine? Stronger now.
and then I start doing prayer. Because what you say is like, God, give me 24 hours. Maybe it's me. Next day you do that again.
Shove it.
And you have hope in your heart.
My magic, isn't it?
It's really high vibration. So when you start doing that,
My shields are waiting.
you gotta give it away. If you don't give it away, then you lose it.
Is it the same thing with part, or you do it like
Every day almost. Winning the Super Bowl. But once you get, I got the 60 days, I'm like, oh, I don't crave it anymore. But you just gotta say, no matter what, I'm not gonna watch this. And like, ease into it, dude. Like, if you have some movies of yourself getting weird, you can watch that to help you get through. You know, just get through it, dude. And then at some point, if you want to wean off that, but your own work is fine. It's just watching other people with trauma just really lean into their trauma, that's where, because you know the occult, Mark. It's like I just find it the adult film industry is a giant humiliation.
Raise your spirits high
Watching
and
somebody
fight.
humiliate themselves for cash and prizes.
There's also an algorithm that pulls you into darker and darker.
That's all Pornhub is.
Well, that's absolutely true. That is a very, very good point, because that is not talked about too much. That you can get dragged out. I think social media does this.
Yes.
Social media is like a cesspit, and I stopped using it completely. But it's very interesting what you're saying about that you had to kind of hit rock bottom and see yourself. I mean, I know a few people that's happened to, but it's a very important thing to learn from, and you get to know yourself, and I think that's the most important thing, because if you're still, I know people who sort of, they stop being alcoholics, but they